Today we're going to talk about the rules for powerlifting. To begin with, I'd just like to thank you as coaches for the time that you put in with our powerlifters and with our schools. We have great participation, and I know that you're the reason that we do. I'd like to thank the Activities Association for the way that they run our state meet in particular. We have it again. That's where I want to start with. This year for 2021, we're going to have our state powerlifting meet April the 17th at the Coliseum like we have before. We'll have 9 classifications, 6 boys and 3 girls, and we're really excited about that. One thing that we do at the state meet that makes it so special and get the help from other people is that we designate who runs the platform by the winners each year, and it works on alternating years. And this particular year, 2021, the girls' platform will be hosted by the South winner, and the boys' platform will be hosted by the North winner. And that rotates every year, and that works out good. And then the warm-up area is held by the other one. So this year, it'll be the opposite person from that. A lot of times people ask me where to go to find information about powerlifting and what to do. I make these suggestions to you. The Mississippi Sports Information Manual is put out a lot, and that for you is a great tool to find out what divisions you're in and where the state meet information. So again, the MHSAA Sports Information Manual is where I'd look for that. Also, the website has this type of information, has a copy of the current rule book, which is going to be the 2020 powerlifting rule book. That's online also. So I suggest that you go there and look at that. As the year goes on, we have meets sit in and try to post those and post qualifiers for our North and South meets and for our state championship. So those are good sources for where to do that. Each year I have young coaches, new coaches, and if you're one of those, again, I welcome you to our Powerlifting and the Activities Association. And one thing that you can do that would help you a lot is read the rule books for our powerlifting. It's set up a little bit different in that some other associations might have different rules and things like that. But I would use that rule book to teach your lifters the rules themselves. That's a great suggestion, that they need to be able to be a coach themselves, and that'll make it go a lot better for you. And also I will go by the rule book, not just what you heard so-and-so say this week, what Perry Law said or Bill Gillette or Extensus. It goes by what's written down in the rule book. So I think that's important for you to be able to refer to that all the time. Like I said earlier, other organizations might have a little bit different rule. They adopt different things over the year and change and go back and forth. We try to stick with the same thing pretty much over the years. We have made some changes, and we'll bring up those from time to time, but in general, follow the rule book that we have for the Activity Association. Try not to make up rules. A lot of times people come up, well, this is what we did at the last meet. Well, they might have been doing it wrong at the last meet. Try to follow rule books and do those things. And if you're a judge, sometimes you need to understand this, and if the coaches and the judges look at the same thing and know the same thing, officials should not be given red lights for things that are not reasons to get a red light. For instance, wearing the wrong color socks or 2 pairs of socks is actually not an infraction anyway, but some people might say, well, he didn't have that proper uniform on, so that's a red light. Those are not reasons for that. If that were to happen, you should just let somebody on the platform. So the red lights are given through actual things that they do wrong within the completion of the lift and that type of thing. So make sure that is followed, make sure that you understand that. That will help both young and old coaches to figure that out. I want to talk about now why do we have rules? What's the reason for that? To me, the number one thing, the reason we have rules is to protect people on and around the platform. The lifters, the spotters, and the judges. That's one of the main reasons to have a rule. And as you go through the rules and understand them, you'll realize that. The second thing is to fairly compare lifts. if you're very consistent, and again, it's like anything else in any other sport, it's hard to be consistent sometimes, but we try to get officials to call the depth the same and understand, interpret the rules correctly and follow them. And those are your two reasons. So number one, to protect the people around the platform, and number two, a fair way to compare the lifts. I want to talk about the reasons to get disqualified for a lift. On all events, we'll start off and cover, no matter whether it's a squat, bench, or deadlift, these are reasons to get disqualified in a particular lift. Number one, not following referee's signals. Each event has a way where it begins the lift and ends the lift. You need to follow those commands. Number two, contact by the spotters. If a spotter touches the bar or lifter, then that's going to nullify the lift. Now, if it is a spotter error, they will be able to get another lift, and that's described in the rule book also. So that is a reason to get a red light, though. Downward movement of the bar during the lift. You can't come up with a bar and then go back down. And each squat, bench, and deadlift that's done, that's a reason to miss the lift. Not maintaining control of the bar. That means if you have to, on deadlift, for instance, you just can't drop it from arm's length. On bench press, you can't drop it on your chest. Squat, you can't throw it off your back. So you got to maintain control of the bar all the time on all three lifts. Thumbs around the bar. A few years back, maybe a bunch of years back, we had a guy doing the bench press, had his thumbs, at that time it was legal not to have them around the bar. It fell on his chest. That's an awesome sight of you can have a great injury in that. So we changed the rules that your thumb on all lifts must be around the bar. The last one that's for all of them is a major, it's higher infraction. And there's a list of what those are. Basically, wearing two suits, wearing power briefs, a bench shirt, anything like that would be a reason to get a red light also. Now I'd like to look at each individual lift. We'll start off with the squat. On the squat, most people have the controversy, and the reason they might miss it is not squatting deep enough. Please read and understand the description of that in your rule book. That is so important, that you must break parallel. You don't have to break it a lot, but you got to break parallel, and that's described in the rule book also. Double bouncing, going down, coming back up, and going back down, coming back up. That's double bouncing. That'll get you a red light in the squats. Laterally changing your hands. Your hands can't slide on the bar. The fingers can open up, but they can't slide laterally. Lateral foot movement, stepping one way or the other. Can't do that on the squat either. You can rock back on your heels and up on your toes, that's okay, but you cannot step sideways or slide your foot sideways. Change the position on the shoulders. You can't roll the bar down your back. If you explode up, it moves a little bit. That is described as a minute movement of the bar. That's okay. You can do that. Last thing, contact of the legs with your arms. As tall as I am, I don't have that problem, but a lot of times tall people have a tendency to squat and their elbows will hit their thighs or something. That's illegal. So now we covered the squat and how that's the reasons you might get a red light in the squat. Now I'd like to go to the bench press. On the bench press, you start, that is one lift that you can't move anything. You get your elected position, your feet must be flat on the bar, on the floor, and you can't slide either way. Your buttocks and your shoulders and your head must be in contact with the bench. You got to maintain that through the lift. You can turn your head sideways, but you can't raise it up. That's important to understand too. Heaving, sinking, or bouncing, you cannot sink the bar in your chest and momentum after you get the command press. Now, you can sink it as far as you want to before then, but when you get that press signal, you got to stop there and explode up at that command. Uneven extension is misunderstood sometimes. your arms have to lock out at the same time. That doesn't mean that the bar can't come up sideways a little bit and then lock them out at the same time. That's okay. But what you can't do is lock one arm out and then the other one. Uneven extension, like I said, some people don't understand that. Read that and understand that's at the end of the lift. If they lock it out, that is fine. But if it come here and one arm goes up, the other one goes down, now you've reached that one we talked about earlier, that the bar can't go up and then come down. So it can come up sideways, but they got to lock out at the same time. Okay, on bench, like I said, you can't have any foot movement. Foot can move sideways. You can't raise your heel, raise your toe. It's got to be flat on the platform. Deliberate contact of the bar on the uprights to aid the lift. Now, I don't know how people would actually do this, but if the bar accidentally hits the upright and keeps on going, that's fine. If it hits the upright and goes back down, now you've broken that rule about the bar not descending. That was changed a few years back because people might hit the bar and the rule was if you hit it, then there was disqualification on the lift. But that's not the case. But if it helps you do the lift, then it is a reason to get disqualified. So that covers the other things that are specifically for the bench press. The last lift is the deadlift. A lot of people say the meet doesn't start till the bar hits the floor, and they're talking about the deadlift. It is, to me, the easiest one to judge. It's the easiest one to teach, and it's really the strongest. You can't have a fake deadlift. A lot of times squat suits and things like that will help in the squat, but in the deadlift, you just basically got to be a man or lady, go up and pick it up. The reason to get disqualified in the deadlift, in addition to the other ones we had mentioned already, failure to stand erect. In that, you got to stand up with your shoulders, not necessarily thrust back, but you got to be locked out and it can't be hunched over. Supporting the bar on the thighs. A lot of people describe that as hitching. And I think it's important to know how the judges view that. If they're the head referee, they're going to look at that bar. If that skin fold is all the way above it all the time, then you're good. But if it sinks back down where it looks sitting on your legs, then that's going to be a red light. So that you need to look at that in the front. And the side's easier if you have a second knee bend. If you lock your knees out and then bend them again, that would be hitching. So you got to look at, and again, look at your rule book, that description. That would be a reason to get a red light in the deadlift. On the foot movement is the same as on squat. You can't rock back on your heels and up on your toes. Your feet cannot slide laterally or step or anything like that. And you got to have control of the bar. A lot of times, I mentioned this earlier, I've seen people do the lift that would win the state championship, and they're so excited they drop it from arm's length. That turns it into no lift. So have a lifter. It doesn't matter how hard it hits the floor. The hands must be on the bar all the way down to the floor, having control of the weight. And that's important for you to know, because I sure hate to see that happen, and that is important to control the bar. So I mentioned the three lifts there, the reason to get a red light and disqualified. The last thing I'd like to talk about are the meet sites for division, region, north and south halves. Normally we've had a meeting, or you actually take your name at the coaching clinic, and we'd go through that list, and Mr. Neves would decide, and we'll get out published in a day or two who's going to be hosting particular meets. This year we're going to do it a little bit slower, but if you are interested in hosting a meet, on the screen you're going to see 3 emails. Mr. Ricky Neves, my name, Perry Laws, and Eric Census. If you will email us that you're interested in hosting one of those meets, then please email us as soon as possible so we can sort of get that done. I'd like to get that done at least by August, September if we could, because usually if people are interested in it, they need time to get it set up, and we need time to get that organized. So if you would do that. In closing, again, I'd like to thank all the coaches and the schools that make the state meet in powerlifting what it is. We usually have 600 to 630, 40 lifters, and we have usually 150 to 200 schools represented, and it's just really exciting to see that happen. And it only happens because of coaches like you, and I appreciate the work you do with young people to get them at the state meet. And again, good luck this year, and I'll be talking to you later.